Welcome to Circle of Hearts Radio. Journey with Grandmother Alaya as she enters her magical world of relics, sacred sites, and ancient crystal skulls. Meet with exciting trailblazer authors and individuals shifting the consciousness of humanity. Send her your questions to be answered on air on her monthly segment, Ask the Oracle. And now your host, Grandmother Alaya, in the sanctuary on the airwaves on OMTimes Radio.
Welcome to Circle of Hearts Radio on OMTimes Media. Welcome to my sanctuary. I had put on a note on Facebook in the beginning of the week that the author had canceled, and I decided to talk about the subject of suicide myself, because I really feel that in these times it's important to understand this concept. Most of us hide our heads as far as the subject goes. Her book was basically the title, Facing the Darkness and Embracing the Light. And this is really true. I think we're at the point of this is the new full moon in Aries, which signals the new beginnings. And I think people are beginning to become very aware and to start to question things that they have been taught. And thinking about the subject, I thought, well, I'm looking back at my own experiences and in my long life. I've actually faced that question twice myself, and also I lost a dear friend to suicide. And it's always puzzled me. And there's really no information, no anything. I mean, people don't want to talk about it. It's not understood. And in thinking about it the past day, I've come to realize looking at different cultures, different timelines, this life challenge has always been there. So today, in the celebration of the full moon and new beginnings and people understanding more, becoming aware more, we're going to start talking about some subjects that need to be brought out into the light. I read a piece today that I think is very telling, because I'm coming from the perception of soul contracts, of your soul journey, of pre-birth contracts, and all the challenges that you find and decisions that you make during your incarnation until transition, and then you go to the cycle of challenges, a list of goals. And sometimes we meet them, sometimes we don't, sometimes we defer. But it's all about choice. You weren't born into a particular situation as a victim. I saw something that's brought that to mind, of somebody saying, why was I born in this desolate area? What did I do wrong? It's not. It's a soul choice. And if you come from this perception, you realize as a soul, as a spirit which animates this form of yours, you become more empowered. And this is what I'm trying to do, to make you think, kind of cut loose some of the old past ideas, and let's walk into something a little bit more of the light, because today's a very chaotic world. And I think we need some kind of directions and recognizing your own power and your own choices. So I've used the word choices again. And the other word that came up was being taught. When you come into this life to experience things, you come into a family or situations, and the world teaches you, your family teaches you, your grandparents teaches you, ancestral history teaches you. The paragraph I came across today is, we live our lives under social pressure to conform, to produce, and to consume. We are taught what is possible for us and what is impossible. We are taught what to value, what to believe, how to live our lives, basically, and how to solve our problems. These are what we are shown in our lives. We are taught. We are taught, in the Western world at least, for the endless pursuit of material possessions and above all, to forget your spiritual consciousness. Now, this is part of the past thinking, forget your spiritual consciousness in some groups, some not. We are taught that men are stronger than women, and women are more sensitive and emotional than men, and all is this lies of illusion. Now, coming from that perspective, yes, what does this have to do with suicide? Well, in this world, we see so many people of so many different backgrounds. Some wealthy, some famous, some children, some people just give up. And this is what suicide is. They come to an awareness inside of them that there's more than what seems to be around them. And I think they come to a point that is, I can't exist in this world. And they make a choice as a soul to leave the body. That is what we consider suicide. I do not understand everything fully, but I'm just throwing out some ideas for you to ponder on it. I know, and nothing like getting personal, but I think this is, needed to be shown. As a very young child, came in, difficult childhood, experienced many, many things that weren't pleasant. Never fit in the family. There was one point as a youngster that, maybe actually closer to a preteen, that I was standing there with having to do the wash with a bottle of Clorox and contemplating whether to drink the Clorox. Now that's kind of weird for a child, but I know that feeling of immense overwhelmness, of pressures from the family, not fitting in, the bullyingness of the dysfunctional family, of abuse. A whole list of things went on. And at that point, standing there in front of the washer, I contemplated it. And something knocked it out of my hand. And I was alone there. So, then I kind of came to my senses, like, what am I thinking? But I can see young children. You hear the stories of being bullied. These are souls that have come into incarnation to meet their own challenges to live. So they may be small, but they're old souls. And what happens if they decide, well, I don't want to be there anymore? So is this the word suicide an option for them? I don't condone it, period. But I'm just trying to make people think. It's something to think about, because if we put so much pressure on everybody and telling them what to do, what happens when somebody becomes so backed against a wall they don't know what to do anymore? They act out. Why people choose the things they do, I have not quite figured out. There's a lot about the subject I don't understand. When I read the author's book, she had brought out that the soul simply decides it's time to go home. And it's a choice, and they're thinking in that state of they have nothing more to give, and it's better for all those around them that they will hurt these people less or be hurt by them less. And if you have ever had a situation, you've understood it, or seen a family member or a friend, or even contemplated yourself, can you imagine that state of mind? And the woman as a medium has said many people that are left behind have gone and asked themselves, what could I have done? What did I miss? And the grief of the family is worse than the decision of the soul that left. So it's a lot to think about. And it's not a pleasant subject, but the thing is, when you face your fears, when you face that darkness and you start trying to put a little light to the situation and understanding, maybe in this new world that we're creating, we'll eliminate this word of suicide. All right, so I'll come back after this commercial.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on OMTimes Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
There is no death, only a change of worlds. Chief Seattle. Deborah Livingston is an award-winning intuitive psychic medium whose international services include mediumship, spiritual assessment, animal communication, and spiritual mentoring. She is a published author and a trained shaman. Deborah provides evidential messages from spirit and departed loved ones. Learn more at deblivemedium.com. That's DEBLIV medium.com.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
You've messed up your daughter's haircut. Do you A, get spiritual?
Mom, where's the mirror?
Beauty is within. Oh.
B, find the positives?
Less time blow drying, more time texting?
Or C, show empathy?
Mom, you really don't have to.
Twinsies!
I kinda love it. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on adoption, visit adoptuskids.org. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Well, I'm back, and we're tackling a very difficult subject today. And it's very easy to not want to talk about it or not want to think about it. But in this chaotic world today, so many people, especially young people, teenagers, are making that decision. And you say, well, are they really making it? And sometimes, yes. Sometimes a feeling of overwhelm because of the pressures of society around them and they don't fit in. And being aware, a lot of the young people nowadays are conscious souls. They're very sensitive. They're in a point of, possibly awakening. There are things they don't understand that's happening. And they feel battered. So as conscious souls, they're saying, I want to go back home. I want to go back to where I feel safe and there's love. And they know there's more after leaving this, particular dimension. Sometimes addictions, sometimes drugs, as addictions, alter their ideas. This is a problem of society, of the availability of different drugs and stuff. And actually, a lot of times the pharmaceuticals that are used to so-called helping mental illness. So we'll go into what is really mental illness, is a detriment because, again, that alters your thinking. It alters your emotional state. It alters you to the point you do not feel anymore. Years ago, and again, this is a personal experience, years ago, I don't know, I was in my 20s, 30s, yeah, probably close to 30s, and I had my 2 daughters. I was a single mom, working 2 or 3 jobs to keep a roof over our head. And I got to the point I was so overwhelmed and so anxious. So I went to the doctor. And what does he prescribe? Xanax. Well, it didn't work very well for me. In fact, I got so deeply depressed because I got to the point where I didn't feel anymore. I existed, but I could not find any joy in life. Of a pharmaceutical altering your perception. I know at one point that I wanted to just take my car and drive it into the biggest tree I could find, so I just wouldn't have to feel like this anymore. And it makes you wonder, a lot of the pharmaceuticals in this world, they'll tell you, well, you can, experience anxiety, you can experience depression. And these are supposed to help people alter their moods, but it's in a very detrimental way. And that's my second experience of wanting to check out, because the feeling of overwhelmed and not knowing what to do. Now, here I was supposed to be responsible for my 2, preteen kids, and I couldn't even find a wanting to exist for them, feeling that they would be better off without me. So we have, again, pharmaceuticals. What snapped me out of it is my present husband, who told me, get your head on together, or because I'm just leaving. And for me, that snapped me out of it. Why? I don't know, but it did. I stopped Xanax cold turkey, which is not recommended, but it was the best thing for me. And I started to gather my ability to feel again. Now, with some of the younger people or even young adults, the availability of different street drugs, etc., just blank out the pressures of the world. Can this alter the feelings where you get to the point of you just don't care? You feel that you're better off, the world is better off without you. Now, in the author's book, she goes, the people that suffer really the most are the families, wondering what they did wrong. And so it makes me wonder, is this part of a soul contract that was made between maybe the child and the parents? It's complicated, but these are things just to think about, because it gives you the sense of choice again, that somehow, in some way, that sometimes things can be altered. Attempted suicides are cries for help. People in that indecision point, and it's a matter of whether it is recognized or not. And people should really understand not to make judgments. No one wants to ever see this happening, but our judgments are created by what we are taught, whether in a religious form or whether culturally. Now, to change, go off in different directions. Some cultures say to choose to end your life in honor of a religion or a cultural standard. This is an honor. So the word suicide has many, many facets to it. For example, the Japanese, very interesting culture. This is the way they are taught. Again, the word taught and choice. During the war, you had kamikaze pilots diving, into ships to give their life for their country. Other cultures, terrorist bombs, giving their life for their culture. Isn't this a form of suicide? It's the choice to leave your physical body for a higher honor that you believe in. I mean, it really gets very complicated when you start to really think about, this word, and it applies to many different meanings in different cultures, and we have to respect the cultures. We may not understand it, but all this is the learning process of seeing things different and trying to understand what is going on. And the people in those cultures, maybe if they can listen to these words, they may start in their own soul conscious and becoming aware and saying, well, this is a choice I don't want to make. Maybe this is not necessarily an honor. But if they believe it is, again, that's their soul choice to experience. The Japanese have a forest that surrounds Mount Fuji that people go and commit suicide on. People walk in and never return out. And a lot is, again, when I'm saying culture, I read a passage where, because of the economy in Japan and the pressure to succeed constantly, which is their cultural background, which we need to understand. There was 500 businessmen that walked in that, listen, I think the word is the sea of trees, if I'm correct or not. They walked into that forest because that forest was designated. It's almost like a sacred site, a special place where if you decide to choose to end your life, for you to go in there and you do not need to come back out. And that's kind of scary. But this is, again, culture. You have groups or cults that do mass suicides. And again, that is for ideas of support. Was it Jonestown? Or there was that cult, I can't think of the name of the guy that they were all going to go up in a spaceship. They kill themselves and their souls will go up into a spaceship. And who knows, maybe they are up there. I don't know. But this is, again, another example of mass suicides. So it doesn't always involve personal, but in a way it does, because who's ever left behind needs to find out a way to deal with the situation, the whys. And I don't know how, I don't think there's any definite experience except it's suicide. Also, you go through the stages of grief as in when somebody transitions. And it's difficult on the families, but sometimes it's a life review for the soul that has left, and it's also a life review. People start to look at things different for the ones that remain behind. They start looking at their life, and maybe a lesson out of all this is choose how you want to live your life. That life can be challenging, but you can choose to enjoy it. You can choose to feel a victim. Again, choice. That's every soul has a choice. And I think that's something that needs to constantly be brought up. We're heading into the next commercial before I go into my third experience, which is not a personal one, but it's of losing a friend to suicide.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com. and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hello! Join us, Lisa Berry and Michelle Carter, every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for the Mindset Makeover, What's Possible. Get ready to become present, clear, and unstuck, and start living fully, led by your heart. While you listen and feel this transformation through vibration of word, sound, and song, you'll open up to what's possible and experience your shift.
Hey, this is Reva McEntire, and I wanted to talk to you about a serious problem right here in our own backyard. Did you know that there are nearly 16 million kids struggling with hunger in America? That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks collects surplus food, engaging their communities in solving hunger and giving hope to hungry kids and their families. But they need your help. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
The whole point of my doing this show and just deciding to discuss this is, and using some personal examples, is to help you face your own darkness, which I think I've come to the point that I've done my own life review and looking why certain things happen in my life and what choices I made, what kind of information I was exposed to, how I made some choices on those, some judgments, and where I can possibly learn from it. So this whole discussion of bringing up a subject that really people don't want to talk about, because of the uneasiness. It's purely, you feel uneasy because it's something that's not understood. Now, my perception is coming from the soul, looking from a soul perspective. You may still not understand it, but if you can glean any thought or any point of light from this discussion, well, it may help you face your own darkness, and from that point start your journey of embracing your life and feeling a sense of an empowerment. Now, back in 2010, I lost a dear friend to suicide. And I went through, in 2000, after my NDE and coming back and learning a whole different life, basically, getting involved in ancient history and the crystal skulls and relics and earth guardianship, etc. I met a shaman, and our souls had crossed paths. And he took me under his wing and helped supported my development and helped me understand things. Toward 2008, 2009, I noticed a difference in him. And either he would be very high or very low. Now, when you get into understanding the shamanistic world and visions and etc., it's not uncommon for people to be very high and very creative and then get deeply reflective and very low. So I never really put two and two together. In 2010, I got a call from another friend in the crystal community and told me about this individual committing suicide. I was deeply shocked. I went through feelings of anger, hurt, abandonment, and we were just friends. He was a very close friend, a mentor that had helped me, and I couldn't understand why. And then to learn that he was bipolar. And then I got mad at myself. Well, how could I have missed that? Was there something I could have done, something I could have said? Could I have, gone and shaken him or something, telling him he's being foolish, get him out of, this mood. So my own experience of being on the other side of the situation, of his decision, looking at it over the years, and it actually took me to this point, about 2016, to finally come to peace with it, to realize he chose what he did, to go back to some of the emails that I have from him when we were discussing some kind of energy relics and stuff. And he often said, he goes, I'll be more of a help to you when I leave this dimension. And I never saw it. And he repeated that repeatedly. And believe me, I got very mad at my own self that I person who considers themselves very observant, that this could just totally go over my head. But then I was going by my own teachings about if you take a life, well, then what happens in reincarnation? Do you have to come back? And I'm going, this person's too smart for that. Why would they do that knowing this? And it was only recently that I realized he was far more aware than I was, that this was a choice, that he felt that he could do more for people by being transcended than he was offering being in this, in this life, that he could give more peace to his family. And that there's no thing of, well, if you took a life, is this a sin? Do you have to come back and repeat the same lessons? No, it's from the spiritual side. It's looking back at a life review of choices that you've made and maybe redoing some of them, or to understand why you chose what you did. And for the families or the people left behind, it is a lesson in their own spiritual growth, that they all look at their life. And it's really a decision for them to wake up and choose what kind of life they want to live in this world. So you see, a lot is going on with the subject that sometimes we really don't even think about. The author, as a medium, had gone and presented some subjects of people coming to her asking, as the person that left, was there anything they could have done? And in most cases, the message that came through is that no, when that choice was made on a spiritual level, when that person's consciousness said that I can't do any more on this plane, that their family in some ways were held back from getting to where they were, or a whole list of obstacles came back that the person was not reached in time. So they fulfilled what they chose to do. So then the family member that's left back is left to deal with this grief. But in talking about it, and I'm sure there's support groups, and not making any judgments on the person that has chosen to left, they come to realize that maybe the whole lesson is for them to understand their own life and what they choose to do and what they choose to create as a spiritual consciousness. This doesn't come quickly. I mean, it took me from when he passed until now, it took me 6 years. And I thought I was a little bit more spiritually aware. But as you see, I still have a lot to learn. And I think everybody needs to be able to understand this. We all have a lot to learn. And my whole point in this whole show is trying to open you up to maybe little points of light, little different perceptions, so you can make your own thoughts and understanding about certain subjects that you may have come across, or even reading in the media, the newspaper, of all these young actors who have committed suicide, whether it's due to an abuse of pharmaceuticals or drugs, or for whatever the reason. This is an alert to our society that we really need to start looking at things, what causes certain things to happen, and to give our voice to different, and make choices. If you see that some pharmaceuticals have destroyed some people, or their sense of judgment, learn about it. Make your own decision. Make your decisions how to live your life from that. If you see that drugs or opiates or whatever, start to learn why a person is feeling the way they are, and maybe help them find a different lifestyle. These are things that you can offer. I'm not saying that there's what an individual soul, whether their choice can be altered. I think a lot of times it can. But another prominent word is support. Support by people, and not judgments. And the world, in a way, needs support on a lot of things. Our awareness is being, a lot of things we took for granted, we're seeing as illusions. And so we need to make changes so that we can review our life and live it in a peaceful and healthy and happy way, and have responsible relationships with people. And even maybe eliminate the word mental illness. What is that? That is a sense of, I think, being sensitive, not knowing how to cope. When I was a nurse, I had part of my clinical in a mental institution in New Jersey. And there's the most beautiful souls there, but because they see auras, or because of their heightened awareness that they don't know how to cope, they're labeled on what was the situation: drugs, So this is something we need to be aware of. So many changes need to be made. And just by starting to think about one word, you can see a whole scope of things that maybe will alter your perceptions on things. And you as individuals can make more informed choices. So that's why I seem to be rambling today. It's important because suicide is a scary word, but what it is in definition is a conscious choice to leave the physical vessel. And thinking about that, if you can make a conscious choice to leave the vessel, you can also make a conscious choice to make changes in your life and stay in this incarnation and to be happy. But you need to face the darkness and to understand what has created this darkness around you. So that's why some of these different words I'm throwing out at you today.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
People are always looking to invest in a good opportunity. So what if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change called Better Futures. With your investment, it helps students like me go to college. My name is Charles, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
Well, we're in the last quarter, and I like to try some of these things. Like I said, I've always been interested in life journeys, as the path of the soul from pre-birth to transitioning, and to try to understand different parts of this journey, why we came into incarnation, why we choose certain things. Individually as a soul to experience. All is for growth. That's kind of bottom line. To realize that in pre-birth, the soul incarnation served during that cycle, like I said, the Tibetans call it Bardo. You have that life review. You look at what was, what you've accomplished, what you wanted to learn. Then you discuss with your higher self or gods or, whatever your perception is, and you make new choices. So when you come into this incarnation, it's with a whole huge background of experiences. But then you choose certain things to maybe work out on a deeper level that you didn't understand before. But then when you come into the birth experience, after choosing your parents, you come into a dimension where everything is, you forget your spiritual consciousness. It's, some people call the word you become a sleeper, one who has forgotten everything, and you are imprinted with all the teachings of the family unit, of the cultural unit, of everything they experiences around you. And it's from that point that you start making choices. What I had mentioned pre-birth that was important that to realize and to give you more of a sense of your spiritual being is when you choose a situation, whether it's coming into wealth experience or into a poverty experience, it's all for growth. And if it's an unpleasant situation, to remember as a spiritual consciousness, as a soul, you chose this. So forget the idea of victimhood. This isn't what my parents brought me into this. No. You chose your parents, you chose the experience for you to overcome, to learn by, to maybe work through and help others. So let's take out that idea of victimhood in life to give you a sense of power, because then from that standpoint, look at all your things that happen in life. And sometimes not nice things happen. Maybe this was a contract you made with another soul to have, a certain experience. But it was always for you to learn by. So this is even where suicide comes in. The family member that chooses at some point to leave, and the family that's left behind. Both is an experience that in some ways is predestined. It just takes a lot of altering your thinking, but I think we're at a point in this evolution of the earth that you're ready to even ponder it. Accept it? Maybe not. It took me a long time. But once an idea starts coming to you and you start thinking, then you start making your own ideas and your own perceptions. And that's part of my purpose in life, to throw out these ideas for you to look at. And you may not agree with me, and that's absolutely fine, because when at certain points in my life I didn't agree with it either. But this is where my perception is a lot of these challenges of coming from the idea of your soul, why you incarnated, etc. This is what I'm trying to bring forth to help remind you of your spiritual consciousness, because once we start from change, that alteration, that point, maybe there will no longer be that word needed of people checking out in this lifetime, of making that choice that they have nothing to offer, or maybe not having the experience of drugs or something that alter their perceptions, of not having the experience of being labeled as mental illness. I had a family member, my older brother, at the age of 20. He went through a spiritual awakening. I think this is part of why I wanted to bring this out too. And in the 1950s, he had a spiritual awakening. He's walking down New York City streets, and all of a sudden he's seeing auras around people. He's seeing dimensional beings. He's seeing able to talk to animals, seeing energy forms vibrate, and he started talking to them back. And he was arrested by the police, put into Bellevue, and put into the, labeled as a latent schizophrenic. Had to go through the whole process with the drugs. And my brother was a brilliant man. He had a PhD in psychology from the University of Tennessee. And also, he was a very spiritually enlightened person that helped me out at different times in my own awakening to realize through certain esoteric schools like the Arcane School, Lucius Trust in New York City, to realize there was more than what you perceive in front of you. And as he grew older, he had made attempts to leave, and they always end up bringing him back to end up into mental hospitals, and he ended up homeless. I mean, he had he was a very dualistic person, but, I did not understand it because there was like 14, 15 years difference between us. But in my older age now, and as days pass, I finally do understand it. And that's why I bring out my personal experiences to let you know I'm not talking about from book knowledge. This is observation and my own understanding of the purpose of your souls. So, now that I have brought all this out, I've given you a lot to think about, or maybe choose not to think about it, but I hope that something will, have touched you a little bit, opened a door, maybe it can bring a little light onto the subject. To understanding, because sometimes when we talk about things, we find them not as fearful. And that's what I, really hope to, bring forth. And now, one aside. Today, I saw my friends on OMTimes Radio, which I'm not sure they're listening, but they put about being a radio host. And I know the importance of sharing something. Every soul has a purpose in this world. And I think the own platform, media platform, is for opening, it's very aligned with the new world. A lot of the old patterns of the use of radio are being broken, and a lot of people are being drawn because it fits in with this world. So the idea about a radio host, I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd be doing this. So what I'm saying to anybody who's listening out there, if you have a feeling that maybe you can contribute something, that may be part of your story or some knowledge you have, you can share with the world, please contact OMTimes Media. Consider being a radio host. They are very, very supportive. If they can take this old lady who knows nothing about technology and put me on the radio, you can do it too. It's not always... OM, I think, is for storytellers, for people who have something to share with the world. And you may think you don't have something, but if you really look at your life, you might be surprised, because you're all precious souls, you're all precious lights on this planet for a particular reason. So take that step, consider it, because this is really this is the platform that is in alignment with creating this new world that we're in, to bringing new ideas out. And you don't have to be a very professional person. They're here to help you. And like I said, they managed to get me on radio and, support me in all the things I've tried to do. And I've really realized over the years that maybe I do have something to share. Maybe I can touch some hearts. And I'm sure if you will take that step, consider sharing your story to the world. What you have to offer, what you have to learn, how you can help another person by communication, because this is the new world that we're in. So thank you for listening. And next week we have Victor Berman, who's another radio host, and you get to know him. So many blessings, dear friends. So until next week.